It was just another Monday morning at the bank. The usual hum of activity filled the air as customers conducted their business, and I was buried in a pile of paperwork behind the counter. The sun streamed through the tall windows, casting warm beams across the polished floors. Everything seemed normal, until it wasn't. It happened in an instant. I was updating a client's account when the sound of shattering glass cut through the calm. My heart raced as I looked up to see masked intruders storming through the doors, their faces hidden and their intentions clear. Panic spread like wildfire among the customers, and I could hear the unmistakable sound of someone shouting commands. The robbers were demanding everyone to get on the ground. I could see the fear in the eyes of the people around me, and my fear threatened to paralyze me. But amidst the chaos, I knew I had to act. Without thinking, I slid out from behind the counter and grabbed the bank's emergency alert system. My hands were shaking, but I managed to press the hidden button that would send a silent alarm to the police. I hoped they'd get here in time. The leader of the gang was shouting orders, his voice cutting through the room. He was agitated, and I could see the way he kept glancing toward the vault. My mind raced, trying to think of how to defuse the situation. I had been trained for emergencies, but nothing could prepare me for this. As the robbers grew more frantic, I noticed one of them had become increasingly aggressive, brandishing a weapon and intimidating the staff. I knew I had to do something to distract him. I took a deep breath and walked slowly toward him, trying to keep my voice steady. "Sir, please," I said, my voice as calm as I could make it. "Is there anything I can do to help? Maybe we can find a way to resolve this without anyone getting hurt." He looked at me, his eyes narrowing behind the mask. I could see the hesitation in his posture, and for a moment, he seemed to consider my words. I kept talking, trying to buy time and keep him engaged. Meanwhile, the quiet beep of the alarm continued, and I hoped the authorities were on their way. The minutes felt like hours as I engaged the robber in conversation, trying to keep him from becoming more violent. Just then, I heard the distant sound of sirens approaching. The leader of the robbers tensed, realizing the situation was escalating. As the police arrived and the first officers burst through the doors, the robbers' plans began to unravel. In the ensuing moments, the situation unfolded rapidly. The robbers were apprehended with minimal resistance, thanks to their escalating panic and the professional handling of the police. The room gradually returned to a semblance of normalcy, though the shock lingered. As the adrenaline slowly wore off, I found myself surrounded by grateful colleagues and relieved customers. My heart was still pounding, but I felt a deep sense of relief and pride. I had managed to keep everyone safe and help resolve the crisis. It was only later, as I sat down to process everything that had happened, that I realized how this day had changed everything. The ordinary morning had turned into a dramatic rescue, and I had played a part in it. Little did I know, this event would set off a chain of events that would lead me to unexpected places I hadn't imagined when I walked into work that day. The bank was slowly returning to its routine after the chaos of the morning. The police had wrapped up their investigation, and the customers were finally allowed to leave, though their faces still reflected the shock of what had happened. As the staff and I worked to clean up and restore order, I found myself lost in thought, replaying the events over and over in my mind. It was then that I saw him. Jason, a client who had been among the witnesses and had played a crucial role in helping during the robbery. He was standing near the entrance, waiting patiently as the police finished their interviews. I recognized him immediately. He had been one of the first to help keep calm amidst the chaos. As I approached him, I felt a surge of gratitude mixed with exhaustion. "Jason, right?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady, despite the remnants of adrenaline still coursing through my veins. He turned and looked at me with a reassuring smile. "Yes, that's me. And you're Alice, aren't you? I wanted to make sure you were okay." I nodded, a bit taken aback by his kindness. "I'm fine, just a bit shaken up. Thank you for your help today. You were incredible." Jason waved off my thanks with a modest shrug. "I was just doing what anyone would have done. It was pretty intense in there. I'm just glad everyone's okay." His humility was refreshing, and it struck me how genuine and grounded he seemed. "You helped to keep things under control. I don't think I could have managed the situation without your support." Jason's eyes met mine, and there was a warmth in his gaze that made me feel instantly at ease. I'm just glad I could be of help, but it sounds like you kept your cool under pressure. That's not something everyone could do." We exchanged smiles, and I felt a connection in that moment, a bond forged through the shared experience of the day's events. "Well, thank you again. It's not every day that you get to meet someone who makes a difference in such a big way." Jason glanced around, noting the still bustling bank. "Maybe we could grab a coffee sometime. I'd love to hear more about how you managed everything today." I hesitated for a moment, caught off guard by his offer, but his friendly demeanor and the genuine concern in his voice made it hard to refuse. "Sure, I'd like that. Let's exchange contact information." As we swapped numbers, I felt a sense of relief and comfort. The day had been harrowing, but meeting Jason had added a glimmer of normalcy and hope. We parted ways with a promise to catch up soon, and I couldn't help but feel that this encounter might lead to something meaningful. As I watched him leave, I realized that despite the trauma of the day, something positive had emerged from it. Meeting Jason had been an unexpected and pleasant surprise, and I was curious to see where this new connection might lead. After the intense events of the robbery, things began to settle into a new routine. The bank had resumed its normal operations, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. One of those changes was my increasingly frequent interactions with Jason. He began visiting the bank regularly, and each time our conversations grew more relaxed and comfortable. At first, it was all about routine banking transactions, checking his accounts, discussing investments, and ensuring everything was in order. But as the weeks went by, the conversations shifted. We started to chat about more than just banking, about our lives, our interests, and our plans for the future. One day, as I was preparing to close up for the afternoon, Jason walked in, his usual confident stride softened by a friendly smile. "Hey, Alice," he greeted me warmly. "I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time." "Not at all," I replied, returning his smile. "It's always good to see you. How can I help today?" Jason took a seat across from me at my desk. "I was hoping to discuss something a bit different today. I've been thinking about expanding my business and could use some professional help with financial planning." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Oh? I'd be happy to help. What do you have in mind?" He leaned in slightly, his eyes earnest. "I'm considering a new investment venture and I need someone who can help me navigate the financial aspects. I know you're quite knowledgeable in this area, and I think your insights could make a difference." I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. It was a step beyond our previous interactions, moving into a more collaborative and personal space. "I'd be glad to assist. Let's set up a meeting to go over the details." We scheduled our first planning session for the following week. Over the next few days, our communication continued, and Jason's visits became more frequent. Each meeting was more than just a business discussion. It was an opportunity to get to know each other better. When the day of our first financial planning meeting arrived, I found myself looking forward to it. We met at a quiet corner of the bank, where I had set up a presentation of various financial options and projections. Jason arrived with a stack of documents and a sense of focused determination. As we went over the details, our professional interaction was punctuated by moments of personal exchange. Jason would occasionally share anecdotes about his business ventures, and I found myself opening up about my own experiences and ambitions. The boundaries between our professional and personal conversations began to blur, and I couldn't ignore the growing sense of connection. By the end of our session, we had made significant progress on his financial planning. Jason looked satisfied and relieved. "Thanks for all your help today, Alice. I appreciate your expertise and your willingness to work with me on this." I smiled, feeling a genuine sense of accomplishment. "It's been a pleasure working with you, Jason. I'm glad I could help." As he left, we exchanged a friendly wave, and I found myself reflecting on our interactions. What had started as a professional relationship was evolving into something more personal. I was intrigued by the way our conversations had shifted from purely transactional to deeply engaging. The more we worked together, the more I found myself looking forward to our meetings, not just for the professional collaboration, but for the personal connection we were developing. It was clear that our relationship was growing in ways I hadn't anticipated, and I was curious to see where this new path would lead us. The morning sun cast a warm glow over the city as I wrapped up the final touches on Jason's financial project. We had worked diligently over the past few weeks, and I was thrilled with the outcome. It had been both a challenging and rewarding experience, and Jason seemed equally pleased with our progress. As I was tidying up my desk, Jason walked into the office, his usual confident stride softened by a genuine smile. "Hey, Alice, I wanted to thank you for all your hard work on the project. It's been a pleasure working with you." "Thank you, Jason. It's been great working with you too. I'm glad we got everything sorted out," I replied, smiling back. Jason hesitated for a moment, then continued. "I was thinking, we've spent so much time together working on this, how about we celebrate with a lunch? My treat." I was pleasantly surprised by the invitation. It felt like a perfect opportunity to get to know him better outside the confines of our professional meetings. "That sounds wonderful. I'd love to." We decided on a quaint cafe nearby that had a reputation for its cozy atmosphere and delicious food. As we walked over, the conversation flowed easily, and I found myself enjoying Jason's company more than I had anticipated. At the cafe, we settled into a corner booth, and I took a moment to appreciate the change of pace. The casual setting provided a stark contrast to our usual meetings, and it felt refreshing. As we perused the menu, Jason began to share more about himself. "You know," Jason said, his eyes lighting up with enthusiasm, "I've always been fascinated by how people manage their finances. But outside of work, I'm really into hiking and nature photography. It's a great way to unwind." I was intrigued. "That sounds amazing. I've always wanted to get into hiking. I love nature, but I never seem to find the time." Jason leaned in slightly, his interest piqued. "You should give it a try. It's a fantastic way to relax and connect with the outdoors. I can give you some tips if you're interested." As we talked about our hobbies, I discovered that we had more in common than I initially realized. I shared my passion for cooking and how I often found solace in experimenting with new recipes. Jason seemed genuinely interested, asking questions and offering his thoughts on food and cooking. The conversation gradually shifted from our hobbies to more personal topics. We talked about our favorite travel destinations, our dreams, and the little things that brought us joy. With each exchange, I felt a growing sense of connection. It was clear that our shared interests were only the surface of something deeper. By the time our meal arrived, the conversation had become even more engaging. We laughed over shared experiences and debated the merits of different hiking trails and cooking techniques. The connection between us was palpable, and I could sense that our mutual attraction was growing. As we finished our lunch and prepared to leave, Jason looked at me with a soft smile. "I'm really glad we did this. It's been great to get to know you outside of work." "Me too," I agreed, feeling a warmth in my chest. "I've enjoyed our time together." We walked back to the bank, the conversation flowing effortlessly. The lunch had not only allowed us to explore our interests, but it also deepened the bond we were forming. It was clear that our relationship was evolving beyond just professional collaboration. As I reflected on the day, I realized that our connection was becoming more meaningful. The lunch had been more than just a meal. It was the beginning of something special, and I was excited to see where this new chapter would lead us. The bank was buzzing with activity as usual when Jason and I met for our weekly financial review. We were deep into discussing some final details of his business's financial plan when he casually mentioned a personal event. "Oh, by the way," Jason said, glancing at his watch, "I'm having a little get-together tonight to celebrate my birthday. Nothing fancy, just a small gathering with close friends." I felt a pang of disappointment. We had been growing closer, and it stung a bit to realize I hadn't been invited to such a personal occasion. But I tried to keep my composure. "That sounds nice. I hope you have a great time." Jason's eyes seemed to notice my reaction, and he gave me an understanding smile. "Thanks, Alice. I appreciate that. It's going to be a low-key evening." As I watched him leave the bank, a surprising decision took hold of me. I wanted to show my support for him, even if I wasn't officially invited. After all, we had shared so much, and I thought it might be a nice gesture to stop by and wish him well. So after work, I made my way to the address Jason had mentioned. The event was being held at a charming little venue, and as I approached, I could see lights twinkling through the windows. I took a deep breath, hoping I wouldn't intrude too much. When I walked in, I was greeted by a friendly hostess who recognized me from our previous conversations. "Alice, it's nice to see you. Jason is over there with his friends." I nodded and made my way toward him. As I approached, Jason's eyes lit up with surprise and delight. "Alice, what a wonderful surprise. I didn't expect to see you here. I hope I'm not intruding, I said, feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement. I just wanted to come by and wish you a happy birthday. Jason's face broke into a warm smile. You're not intruding at all. I'm really glad you came. Let me introduce you to everyone. The evening unfolded pleasantly. I met Jason's friends, enjoyed some light conversation, and took in the festive atmosphere. As the night progressed, Jason and I found ourselves stealing moments away from the crowd, chatting about everything from work to our dreams. Later, as the party began to wind down, Jason took my hand and led me to a quieter corner of the venue. I have a little surprise for you, he said, his eyes twinkling with mischief. Before I could ask what it was, he handed me a small box. I opened it to find a beautiful locket with a note inside that read, "For all the wonderful moments we've shared, and many more to come." My heart fluttered as I looked up at him. This is so thoughtful, Jason. Thank you. Jason smiled and took my hand. There's one more thing. I've made a reservation for us at a special restaurant nearby. I thought it would be nice to have a quiet dinner together after the party. My heart swelled with warmth at the gesture. That sounds perfect. We left the gathering and headed to the restaurant. It was an elegant place with dim lighting and soft music playing in the background. As we settled into our table, the ambiance set the stage for an intimate and heartfelt evening. Throughout dinner, we talked about our hopes and dreams, sharing more personal stories and plans for the future. The conversation flowed effortlessly, and I felt a deeper connection forming between us. Jason's thoughtful gestures and the romantic setting made the evening unforgettable. As the night drew to a close, Jason walked me to my car, and I could tell he was just as enchanted by the evening as I was. Thank you for coming tonight, Alice. It meant a lot to me. I looked up at him, feeling a surge of emotion. Thank you for the wonderful evening. I'm really glad we had this time together. With a final tender smile, Jason kissed me gently on the cheek. Here's to many more nights like this. As I drove home, I reflected on the evening's events. The night had been filled with unexpected moments and heartfelt connections. I realized that our relationship was evolving into something special, and I couldn't wait to see where this journey would lead us. The bank was buzzing with activity as usual when Jason and I met for our weekly financial review. We were deep into discussing some final details of his business's financial plan when he casually mentioned a personal event. Oh, by the way, Jason said, glancing at his watch, I'm having a little get-together tonight to celebrate my birthday. Nothing fancy, just a small gathering with close friends. I felt a pang of disappointment. We had been growing closer, and it stung a bit to realize I hadn't been invited to such a personal occasion, but I tried to keep my composure. That sounds nice. I hope you have a great time. Jason's eyes seemed to notice my reaction, and he gave me an understanding smile. Thanks, Alice. I appreciate that. It's going to be a low-key evening. As I watched him leave the bank, a surprising decision took hold of me. I wanted to show my support for him, even if I wasn't officially invited. After all, we had shared so much, and I thought it might be a nice gesture to stop by and wish him well. So, after work, I made my way to the address Jason had mentioned. The event was being held at a charming little venue, and as I approached, I could see lights twinkling through the windows. I took a deep breath, hoping I wouldn't intrude too much. When I walked in, I was greeted by a friendly hostess who recognized me from our previous conversations. Alice, it's nice to see you. Jason is over there with his friends. I nodded and made my way toward him. As I approached, Jason's eyes lit up with surprise and delight. Alice, what a wonderful surprise. I didn't expect to see you here. I hope I'm not intruding, I said, feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement. I just wanted to come by and wish you a happy birthday. Jason's face broke into a warm smile. You're not intruding at all. I'm really glad you came. Let me introduce you to everyone. The evening unfolded pleasantly. I met Jason's friends, enjoyed some light conversation, and took in the festive atmosphere. As the night progressed, Jason and I found ourselves stealing moments away from the crowd, chatting about everything from work to our dreams. Later, as the party began to wind down, Jason took my hand and led me to a quieter corner of the venue. I have a little surprise for you, he said, his eyes twinkling with mischief. Before I could ask what it was, he handed me a small box. I opened it to find a beautiful locket with a note inside that read, "For all the wonderful moments we've shared and many more to come." My heart fluttered as I looked up at him. This is so thoughtful, Jason. Thank you. Jason smiled and took my hand. There's one more thing. I've made a reservation for us at a special restaurant nearby. I thought it would be nice to have a quiet dinner together after the party. My heart swelled with warmth at the gesture. That sounds perfect. We left the gathering and headed to the restaurant. It was an elegant place with dim lighting and soft music playing in the background. As we settled into our table, the ambiance set the stage for an intimate and heartfelt evening. Throughout dinner, we talked about our hopes and dreams, sharing more personal stories and plans for the future. The conversation flowed effortlessly, and I felt a deeper connection forming between us. Jason's thoughtful gestures and the romantic setting made the evening unforgettable. As the night drew to a close, Jason walked me to my car, and I could tell he was just as enchanted by the evening as I was. Thank you for coming tonight, Alice. It meant a lot to me. I looked up at him, feeling a surge of emotion. Thank you for the wonderful evening. I'm really glad we had this time together. With a final tender smile, Jason kissed me gently on the cheek. Here's to many more nights like this. As I drove home, I reflected on the evening's events. The night had been filled with unexpected moments and heartfelt connections. I realized that our relationship was evolving into something special, and I couldn't wait to see where this journey would lead us. The atmosphere at the bank had shifted noticeably in recent weeks. What had once been a busy but friendly work environment now felt tainted by the murmur of gossip. It all began around the time Jason and I started spending more time together outside of work, and it didn't take long for the whispers to start. I first noticed it during a routine meeting with a few of my colleagues. As I walked into the break room, I overheard snippets of conversation that made my ears burn with discomfort. I heard Alice and Jason have been seeing each other, one of my colleagues, Linda, said in a low voice. Isn't that a bit unprofessional? Another voice chimed in. Yeah, I've seen them together quite a bit. Maybe there's more going on than just business. The conversation stopped abruptly when they saw me, but the damage was done. I could feel their eyes following me as I made my way to the coffee machine. It was impossible to ignore the growing tension that seemed to hang in the air. The next few days were no better. During team meetings, I felt the weight of my colleagues' scrutinizing glances. The atmosphere was charged with an unspoken question. What was happening between me and Jason? Their curiosity had turned into something more invasive, and it was starting to take a toll on me. One afternoon, as I was busy with paperwork, Jessica, a fellow employee, approached me with an awkward smile. Alice, can we talk for a minute? I nodded, though I could sense that something uncomfortable was about to be discussed. We stepped into a small conference room, away from the prying eyes and ears of our coworkers. Look, I don't want to stir up trouble, Jessica began hesitantly, but there's been a lot of talk around here about you and Jason. I sighed, feeling a mix of frustration and sadness. I've noticed. It's starting to affect the way I feel about coming to work. Jessica nodded sympathetically. I understand. It's just that some people are saying things that aren't entirely flattering. They're suggesting that your relationship might be affecting your work. I tried to keep my composure. Jason and I have been working closely together on a project, and yes, we've grown closer, but it's all been professional until now. I didn't expect it to become a topic of gossip. Jessica gave me a reassuring look. I know you're doing your job well. It's just hard to ignore the way people are talking. Maybe it's time to address it openly so things don't get worse. Her advice made sense. As I returned to my desk, I realized that avoiding the issue wouldn't make it go away. If I wanted to clear the air, I needed to take action. The next day, I decided to address the situation directly. During a team meeting, I took a deep breath and spoke up. I know there have been some rumors circulating about my relationship with Jason. I want to assure everyone that our work is professional and hasn't affected our performance. There was a moment of stunned silence before a few nods and murmurs of agreement. I continued, I understand that it might be uncomfortable to discuss personal matters at work, but I want to maintain a respectful and professional environment for all of us. After the meeting, I felt a sense of relief, even if the rumors hadn't completely vanished. At least I had taken a stand and tried to address the situation head-on. It was clear that the gossip would take time to die down, but I hoped that by confronting it, I had taken a step towards restoring a sense of normalcy at work. Despite the lingering whispers and the awkwardness, I was determined to stay focused on my work and continue nurturing my relationship with Jason. I knew that navigating the complexities of both professional and personal relationships would require patience and resilience, but I was committed to seeing it through. It was an unusually quiet afternoon at the bank when I received the call from Jason. The tone in his voice was strained, and I could tell something was wrong. "Alice, could we talk?" he asked, his voice low and heavy. "I'm dealing with some issues and could use your advice." "Of course," I replied, trying to keep my concern from showing. "What's going on?" Jason explained that his business was facing significant financial troubles. Several unexpected setbacks had put him in a precarious position, and he was struggling to find a way out. As he spoke, I could hear the frustration and worry in his voice. "I don't want to burden you with this, but I'm at a loss," Jason admitted. "I'm trying to figure out how to keep things afloat." My heart went out to him. Despite the recent rumors and tensions at work, I felt a deep sense of compassion for Jason. "I'm here for you," I assured him. "Let me help in any way I can." We agreed to meet after work at a cafe where we could talk more privately. When I arrived, Jason was already there, looking worn but grateful. We sat down, and I listened as he detailed the financial issues he was facing. Unexpected expenses, dwindling revenue, and a looming deadline for a crucial payment. "I'm working on a few solutions," Jason said, his eyes tired. "But it's been tough to keep everything together." I offered suggestions and helped him brainstorm potential strategies. I could see how deeply this situation was affecting him, and it only made me more determined to support him through it. As the days went by, I noticed a shift in Jason's demeanor. He became more withdrawn, and it was clear that the financial troubles were taking a toll on him. I tried to be supportive, but it seemed like he was pulling away, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. One evening, as we were having dinner, I noticed Jason was more distant than usual. I attempted to bring up the subject, hoping to understand what was going on. "Jason, is there something you're not telling me? You seem more stressed than before." Jason hesitated, then shook his head. "It's just, there are some aspects of this situation that I'm trying to handle on my own. I don't want to add to your worries." I was taken aback. "But we're in this together. If there's something I need to know to help you, I want to be aware of it." Jason's silence was telling. I could sense that he was keeping something from me, and the lack of transparency was creating a rift between us. The more he withdrew, the more I felt left in the dark, which only added to the growing tension. "I understand you want to protect me from this," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "But not being open with me about what's happening is causing more harm than good. It's making me feel like I'm not a part of this." Jason looked pained but nodded. "You're right. I should have been more open with you. It's just been difficult to talk about everything." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the unspoken words hanging heavily between us. I could see the sincerity in Jason's eyes, and despite the strain, I knew he valued our relationship. "I want us to work through this," I said softly, "but we need to be honest with each other. That's the only way we can overcome these challenges." Jason reached across the table and took my hand. "I'm sorry for keeping things from you. I promise to be more transparent from now on." As we left the cafe, I felt a renewed sense of commitment to our relationship. It was clear that the road ahead would be difficult, but facing these obstacles together would only strengthen our bond. The struggles were far from over, but we were determined to navigate them with honesty and support, knowing that our connection was worth fighting for. The atmosphere in the apartment was heavy with unspoken words, as Jason and I sat across from each other at the kitchen table. It had been a challenging few weeks, marked by financial worries and strained communication. I knew we needed to have a heartfelt conversation if we were to move past this difficult time. "Jason, we need to talk," I began gently, trying to keep my tone calm despite the tension. "I feel like there's been a lot of distance between us lately, and I want to understand what's going on." Jason looked up from his coffee cup, his eyes weary but determined. "I've been trying to keep it together, Alice, but the financial problems have been overwhelming. I didn't want to burden you more than I already have." I reached out and took his hand, feeling a surge of emotion. "We're partners in this. If you're struggling, I want to be here for you, not just in the good times, but in the tough ones too." He sighed deeply, the weight of the situation evident in his posture. "You're right. I should have been more open with you. It's just been hard to admit that I don't have all the answers." I nodded, squeezing his hand for reassurance. I understand, and I want us to work through this together. Let's talk about what's been happening and see how we can address it as a team. We spent the next hour discussing the specifics of Jason's financial troubles. He revealed more details about the challenges he faced, including mounting debts and a potential shortfall in revenue. It was clear that he had been holding back some of the gravity of the situation, but his openness now was a relief. We need a plan, I said, feeling a sense of determination. Let's look at your budget and see where we can cut costs. Maybe we can brainstorm some ways to increase revenue or find additional support. Jason nodded, his expression shifting from frustration to hope. I've been so focused on trying to fix everything myself that I forgot how much easier it could be with your help. We spent the rest of the day working on a strategy. I helped him go through his finances, identify areas where he could save money, and outline potential solutions to his problems. It was a collaborative effort, and the process of working through the challenges together was surprisingly invigorating. By the time we finished, the burden felt a little lighter. Jason looked at me with a newfound appreciation. Thank you for being patient and for helping me through this. I didn't realize how much we could accomplish when we faced it together. I smiled, feeling a deep sense of connection. We're a team, Jason. No matter what comes our way, we'll face it together. That's what makes us stronger. As we wrapped up our discussion, I felt a renewed sense of hope. The road ahead would still have its obstacles, but knowing that we were united in tackling them made all the difference. Our relationship had weathered a storm, and now, with open communication and shared determination, we were ready to move forward with a stronger bond than before. That evening, as we relaxed on the couch together, I realized how much this experience had deepened our connection. The challenges had tested us, but they had also brought us closer. We were ready to embrace the future, knowing that together we could handle whatever came our way. It was an ordinary Friday afternoon when the office buzzed with excitement about an upcoming event. The bank was hosting a community outreach gala, a prestigious affair that brought together clients, partners, and employees for an evening of networking and celebration. Little did I know, this event would mark a significant turning point in my relationship with Jason. As the evening approached, I spent the day preparing for the gala, carefully choosing an elegant dress and rehearsing my small role in the event's program. Jason had been instrumental in organizing the gala, and I could tell he was excited about the occasion. When I arrived at the venue, I was greeted by a sea of familiar faces and a sophisticated ambiance. The hall was decorated with elegant floral arrangements and twinkling lights, setting the perfect stage for the evening's festivities. Jason found me among the crowd, his eyes sparkling with anticipation. "Alice, you look amazing," he said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. "Thank you, Jason," I replied, smiling. "You look quite dashing yourself." As the evening progressed, I felt a growing sense of nervousness. Jason had mentioned he wanted to make a special announcement, but he hadn't shared the details with me. His mysterious excitement only heightened my curiosity. The time for the announcement came after dinner, when the MC took the stage to make some closing remarks. I watched as Jason approached the microphone, his demeanor poised and confident. The room fell silent, and all eyes were on him. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jason began, his voice resonating with sincerity. "Tonight, we celebrate not only our professional achievements, but also the personal connections that make our work meaningful." I could feel my heart racing as I tried to anticipate what he was about to say. Jason paused, scanning the audience before continuing. "I want to take this moment to publicly acknowledge someone who has been a significant part of my life," he said, looking directly at me. "Alice, since the day we met, you've brought so much joy, support, and love into my life. Our journey together has been incredible, and I am grateful for every moment we've shared." The room was filled with a mixture of surprise and applause. My cheeks flushed with emotion as I felt the weight of Jason's words. He stepped down from the stage and walked over to me, taking my hand in his. "I want everyone to know how much you mean to me," he continued, his voice tender. "We've faced challenges, but we've done so with honesty and strength. I am excited to continue building our future together, both professionally and personally." The crowd's applause grew louder, and I could see the genuine happiness in Jason's eyes. It was a moment of profound recognition and commitment, one that marked the beginning of a new chapter in our relationship. As the evening drew to a close, Jason and I found a quiet corner of the venue to reflect on the night. "Thank you for that," I said, my voice choked with emotion. "It means so much to me." Jason pulled me into a warm embrace. "I wanted to make sure you knew how much you mean to me. This is just the beginning of our journey together." We spent the rest of the night celebrating with friends and colleagues, but the highlight was undoubtedly the public declaration of our relationship. It felt like a significant step forward, both in our personal lives and in our professional world. The gala marked a new phase in our relationship, one where we were ready to face the future together with renewed commitment. As we looked toward the horizon, we knew that our journey was just beginning, and we were excited to embrace the new chapter of our lives, both as partners in love and collaborators in our shared dreams.